We'll be in it all the way up until Easter. And the reason why we chose Ruth headed towards Easter is because at the end of the day, Ruth points us towards Jesus. We look at the characters in this story, but when we look at the characters, we have to look through the characters because at the end of the day, what Ruth is trying to help us understand is who Jesus is and how he is the perfect and ultimate sacrifice for us, that rescue is found in him and him alone. And so I'm excited to be in Ruth chapter 3 with you this morning. Now, right out of the gate, I got to tell you, we're likely going a bit more granular in the text than maybe the author had anticipated when he wrote this. But we're doing it because there is so much to be learned from these characters. As I said, we look through them, but we can also look to them. And we can look to them and understand better what it looks like to live in a society that's doing whatever they see fit in their own eyes. As you see, if you're taking notes, the title of today's message is Honorable. And as I wrestled with this word honorable and with the text, I couldn't help but think about some well-worn, like rightly so quotes. You've definitely heard them along the way when it comes to honor. The first one comes from Abraham Lincoln. This is what he said: "Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power." Right? You can make it through anything, but give them some power, give them some authority, see what they do with that, and that really gets to the heart of the character of the person. How about the wizard from Westwood, or better known as John Wooden, UCLA coach, 10-time champion? This is what he said. He said, "The truest test of a man's character is what he does when no one is watching. When nobody can see, when nobody's around to take notes, when there's no video rolling, right? What do? That is the true test of a man's character." I really like D.L. Moody, pastor, theologian, writer. I think he really gets to the heart of the matter when he said this: "Character is what you do in the dark." Character is what you do in the dark. And I think this is what D.L. Moody was trying to get at when he said that. You don't really know who you are in the light. In the light, we always try to put our best foot forward, don't we? We always try to present our best self, often putting a faux image on who we really are. Maybe your house was like mine growing up. My mom wouldn't care if I shared this story. We've laughed about it a lot of times. My mom could have been mid-sentence, shouting down, rightly so, her 3 sons. Like we deserved whatever she was saying to us. And the phone would ring. And she could be beet red in her face, veins popping out of her neck, just angry as can be. And the phone would ring. She'd be like, "Hello?" Just a simple ring, one ringtone is enough to readjust, to put on a new face, and be like, "Hello, how's it going?" And that's what the daylight does. Before you and I go out into public, oftentimes we take a look in the mirror and we try to see, am I presentable for the public? Am I ready to go out and about? Sometimes Heidi will want me to go out with her like in the evening. And yesterday she talked me into going to Target late at night after a long day of skiing. And I got inside Target and I kind of looked at myself. I was like, I looked like I was ready for bed. And I'm the guy that makes fun of people that walk around looking like they should be ready for bed, okay? Usually look in the mirror and like, am I presentable, ready to go out? So the daylight doesn't really show us who we are. You find out who you are in the dark, in private, when nobody else is watching, when the opportunity is there, like it presents itself, and when the excuse or the rationale that you have, it makes sense. The decision you make in the moment, you can rationalize it in your brain. You can make sense of it. Nobody else is seeing. Nobody else will know. That is when we find out the true character of a person. Let me say it a little bit differently. The dark doesn't create your character. It just simply reveals it. The dark reveals your character. Now, here's what's so powerful about the dark. It's usually an opportunity where vulnerability and opportunity overlap one another, right? You got vulnerability and you have opportunity, and they come together in this moment. It's this moment where something can be taken or something can be protected. It's the power of these moments. And it's in those moments where character isn't just theoretical. It's a moment where it's revealed. It's a moment where a decision is made. See, integrity is not automatic. It's a decision that you and I choose every day of our lives. Are we going to be people of integrity? So one of the things I love about Ruth 3, because it takes place in one of those environments. It takes place at night. It takes place on the threshing floor where there's really nobody else around. It's in private. It's one of those who you are in the dark kind of moments that we see in Ruth chapter 3. In this chapter teaches us what it looks like to live honorably in these vulnerable moments. Let me say it like this. This is my hope, this is my prayer, this is my desire, that we would be people who choose integrity in moments of vulnerability. That each one of us would be a person who chooses integrity in moments of vulnerability. We're going to see that here in our text this morning. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and open to Ruth chapter 3. We're going to be in verses 7 through 17. While you're turning there, let me just quickly catch you up to speed in case you haven't been along on the journey with us so far. Naomi and Ruth, they left a town, this land called Moab. They traveled back to Bethlehem. That was Naomi's homeland. Why did they go back there? Because Naomi had lost her husband. She lost her 2 sons. Ruth was one of her daughters-in-law. Ruth goes back to Bethlehem with them because they find out that God has, he has blessed the land again and they have crops again. And so they go back there in hopes of finding some rescue. They show up. Ruth immediately gets to work doing what she can do. She goes out and I'm hoping somebody will allow me to just harvest some grain, just grab some grain behind those who are harvesting, just pick it up along the way, anything that they drop, maybe that I can take that home and that would feed us. And it just so happens, it's a funny phrase inside of Ruth, which really is trying to get our attention to let us know that God is at work even when he seems absent. She ends up in the field of this guy named Boaz. And this guy named Boaz is incredibly generous to her. She's just hoping that she could go to a field and pick up some grain. And then he shows up and he leans in and he is just absolutely, unbelievably generous to her. It's clear for those of us who are reading the story and can get to the end, we can tell that Boaz is falling in love with Ruth. Naomi, she can tell this as well. And that's why she hatches a plan for Ruth to go to the threshing floor and to make her intentions known to Boaz. And I love that Brandon last week, he got to communicate to us that God's pursuit of us is what initiates our pursuit of God. Is sometimes we think we're in pursuit of God on our own, that we're going to go find him. But listen, God is in pursuit of you first. It is not because we loved God first, but because he loved us that we can have a relationship with him. And Brandon did a great job at unpacking that for us last week. And so we pick up the story. Naomi, she had hatched the plan. And this is what Ruth says: I will do whatever it is you tell me to do. I will do whatever it is, Naomi. I'll go do it. And it's kind of a crazy plan, especially for those of us in 2026 in the United States of America, right? It's this is weird. Let's pick up the story. Verse 7. It says, after Boaz had finished eating and drinking, he was in good spirits. He lay down at the far end of the pile of grain and went to sleep. Ruth came quickly and uncovered his feet and lay down. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman laying at his feet. Who are you? He asked. I am your servant Ruth, she replied. Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer. This is a moment where Ruth proposes to Boaz. She lets Boaz know that she wants to marry him, that she sees him as the family redeemer, the one who can rescue them, the one that can provide, the one who can protect, the one who can bring everything, who will radically change their situation. When she says, put the corner of your blanket or covering over me, she says, I want to come underneath your care and your protection. Really, what Ruth is communicating here in chapter 3 is the prayer that Boaz prays for her in chapter 2. And he says, may the Lord's covering, under whose wing you come to take refuge, may he protect you. In this moment, we see the answer to that prayer coming true. Let's go on. Verse 10 says, the Lord bless you, my daughter, Boaz exclaimed. You are showing even more family loyalty now than you did before. For you have not gone after younger men, whether rich or poor. Now don't worry about a thing, my daughter. I will do what is necessary, for everyone in this town knows you are a virtuous woman. But while it is true that I am your family's redeemer, I am one of your family redeemers. There is another man who is more closely related to you than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning I will talk to him. And if he is willing to redeem you, very well, let him marry you. Can you imagine what it had been like for Ruth in that moment? She's like, time out. I'm at your feet, bro. I wasn't looking for the other guy. Like I'm right here. Here's another thing that I find interesting about this passage. Clearly, Boaz had done his homework. He knew. He walked through the family line. My guess is he was hoping at some point she was going to pop the question. He was hoping he was going to have an opportunity to redeem her. He'd been making advances. He'd let her know his intentions, that he was into her and all of that stuff. And he's like, but before I get the cart before the horse, I better figure out, is this even a possibility? And the man of integrity says, well, I am one of the family redeemers. This is true, but there's another one who is even closer to you. I'll talk to him. And if he wants to marry you, then so be it. That's fine. Just want to make sure you're taken care of. But this is what he says. But if he is not willing, then as surely as the Lord lives, I will redeem you myself. Now lie down here until morning. Can you imagine what the rest of that night looked like for Ruth? I'm guessing she just looked at the stars. So Ruth lay at Boaz's feet until morning. But she got up before it was light enough for people to recognize each other. For Boaz said, no one must know that a woman was here at the threshing floor. Then Boaz said to her, bring your cloak and spread it out. He measured 6 scoops of barley into the cloak and placed it on her back. Then he returned to the town. When Ruth went back to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, what happened, my daughter? Ruth told Naomi everything Boaz had done for her. And then she added, he gave me these 6 scoops of barley and said, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Smart man. Now you know that after we read the passage, now you understand why this is one of those, this is who you are in the dark kind of moments. Naomi's plan was risky. Ruth, I want you to go get all showered up. I want you to put on your nicest clothes. I want you to go out to the threshing floor. I believe Boaz is going to be there tonight threshing out the grain. I want you to pay attention to where he lies down after he's eaten and drank for the night. Make sure you figure out where he lies down. That's an important part to the plan. It would have been really weird if she ended up at the feet of somebody else. Pay attention to where he lies down. Go there, uncover his feet, lie down at his feet. Like this plan could have gone wrong in 100 different ways. So it was risky. But even though it was risky, it wasn't reckless. It was calculated. They understood what was at stake. And the reason why it was risky but not reckless and calculated is because they understood who Boaz was. See, the success of this plan rested entirely on the character of Boaz. Entirely. Who was Boaz going to be in the middle of the night when nobody else was around on the threshing floor? It's one thing to be a man of character in the field when all of your workers are around and watching, but who is this man going to be in the middle of the night when nobody else is there? You see, both Naomi and Ruth, they had observed Boaz's integrity all along. They observed his generosity. They observed his kindness. So Ruth could trust his future integrity because she had already witnessed his past character. Why was it that Ruth was able to say to Naomi when she hatches this wild plan, I will do whatever it is you ask me to do? Is because she recognized the character of Boaz. She was willing to go because she had seen his past character. And we know that future actions, future self, like we can tell what we're gonna do in the future primarily based on what we've done in the past. How we've responded to past events is one of the greatest predictors of how we're going to respond to future events. What we've done in the past helps us get a glimpse into what we will do in the future. Some of us this morning, we're wrestling personally and privately about some behaviors that you would never want to see come to the light. And you've been telling yourself, I'll never do that thing again. I've got enough strength this time. I'll pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm not going to go to that spot online. I'm not going to have that chat with that person. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm done doing that. And as long as you keep that in private and you don't learn new rhythms and get accountability in your life, likely what's going to play out is the same thing in the future that played out in the past. If you want something different in the future, you have to have a different plan. You got to do different things. You need different rhythms. You need different accountability in your life. But in this story, Ruth has great confidence that Boaz was going to be the same guy in the field at the threshing floor. So she's able to say, I will do whatever it is you want me to do. Now, I've said it before, said it at the start of this message, that Jesus is the focal point of all of Ruth. Jesus is the hero of the story. Bottom line, like mic drop, he is the hero. Not Boaz, not Ruth. It is Jesus who is the true, perfect, and ultimate redeemer. He is the one that can rescue us. He is the one who can restore us completely and finally. Boaz and Ruth cannot do that. However, Boaz and Ruth, they give us a really clear picture of what it looks like to honor the Lord in a culture and an environment where everybody is doing what they see fit in their own eyes. Whatever they see is right, they're doing that. And Boaz and Ruth, with that backdrop, stand out as shining lights and shining examples. People that we could look to and say, man, I want to operate like that in a culture where everybody is doing whatever they see fit in their own eyes. So here's the question that I want us all to wrestle with this morning as we work our way through this text. What do you choose when opportunity and vulnerability overlap and nobody is watching? What do you do when opportunity and vulnerability overlap and nobody else is watching? Let me give some handles to that question. What do you do when you're at the grocery store and you're taking a look at your receipt when it's all said and done, and you realize you didn't get charged for one or more items on your receipt. How do you respond to that? What do you do when you're out to dinner, fancy dinner, nice place? The waitress or the waiter, they bring your tab, you look at it and you look through and you realize, oh, they didn't get the appetizer put on here. Oh, they missed one of our drinks. What do you do in that moment? What do you do when you have the opportunity to have access to somebody else's Netflix account, Hulu account, or their Spotify account? What do you do in that moment? What do you do in the moment where you're at home, online, it's late at night, nobody else is around, and you get a pop-up on your screen that's gonna take you to a place you know you do not belong? Like, what do you do in that moment? These are all moments where vulnerability and opportunity overlap, and nobody's gonna be any wiser based on your decision. What do you do in those moments? Ruth 3 gives us two expressions of integrity in vulnerable moments. In Ruth, the person Ruth, not just the book, in the gal Ruth, we see honorable vulnerability. In Boaz, we see protective integrity. This morning, I want to take a look at both of those. We'll drill down on both Ruth and on Boaz in hopes to walk out of here as people who choose integrity in vulnerable moments. So let's start with Ruth. Ruth models integrity by acting honorably in a vulnerable situation. Ruth models integrity by acting honorably in a vulnerable situation. This is what I mean by that. One, Ruth does not pursue the obvious choices of people to marry. She does not pursue after them. She pursues after Boaz. The obvious choice, even for Boaz, he could see it. He wakes up in the middle of the night and he's got a clear enough mind to recognize, I don't know why Ruth is at my feet. He says to her, I'm impressed essentially that you have chosen me instead of any other younger men. Boaz had looked in the mirror. He had seen Ruth. He knew he was swimming way outside of his lane. She was way above his pay grade. And he wakes up in the middle of the night and she essentially proposes to him. And he's like, wow, you could have chosen younger men to lay at their feet, whether wealthy or poor. What is he saying? Ruth had the capability to find a younger man, might not have been the best looking guy, but as long as he had some dough, right? He could take care of the financial needs. He could bring the security that she was probably looking for. She didn't have to go to Boaz. There was surely a younger man, good looking or not, who could have provided for her needs. And then he goes as far as to say, or you could have chose a poorer man, one who was very good looking, one who you could have been passionate about. You could have chosen either of those, but you didn't choose either of those. Why? Because you chose to care for your mother-in-law. You chose to carry on the family line of your dead husband. And in that moment, in that vulnerable place, even Boaz recognizes the honor that comes along with Ruth's decision to pursue him as the family redeemer and not just go after somebody wealthy or somebody really hot. She chose Boaz. She chose him. Boaz takes note of this. Also, what I think is just so impressive about the story in Ruth in this moment is that she doesn't choose seduction to manipulate the situation. She doesn't choose seduction. Rather, she falls in line with what's respected in the culture, what would honor God in that moment. Just simply came, laid down at his feet, covered herself up, and that's it. In fact, this is so outside of our cultural norm that when they reproduced this, Netflix reproduced the story of Ruth back in 2025, they couldn't help but throw in Ruth being a seductive woman in the story. They couldn't help themselves because this is so outside of the norm. And it was outside of the norm in her day as well. And what does she do? She doesn't choose to seduce Boaz. She chooses to fall in line in a God-honoring way inside of a culture to make her intentions known. She doesn't seduce or manipulate the situation. She just simply respects the cultural boundaries of the time. Say, God, I want to honor you in this relationship. And this is what Ruth's example shows us. It shows us that choosing integrity often looks like restraint. It looks like thinking beyond the immediate gain of the situation. If Ruth had the immediate gain in her mind, she would have gone after the younger wealthy, the younger good looking. She would have said, I just laying at his feet is not going to be enough in this moment. I really got to seal the deal here. And she could have seduced him in the moment. But no, she restrains herself. She follows Naomi's orders. She's not in pursuit of immediate gains. She's got the long game in mind. Why? Because Ruth chooses integrity by acting honorably in a vulnerable situation. And now we're going to look at Boaz for a few minutes here. Boaz, he models integrity by honoring Ruth in a vulnerable moment. He chooses integrity by honoring Ruth, the vulnerable, in an absolutely vulnerable moment. Boaz wakes up in the middle of the night with the woman he clearly has affections for lying at his feet. That, friends, is a very sensitive and vulnerable moment. And what does he do? Does he take advantage of it? There's nobody else around. Nobody else is watching. It's just him and her in that moment. This is an opportunity for him as a powerful man to take what he wants. But is that what he does? No, that's not what he does. What does he do? He chooses integrity even though nobody else was watching. He chooses integrity. He cares for Ruth in that moment. And there's a couple of ways that we know that he cares for her in that moment. And number one is this: he provides physical protection for her. This is what he says to her: stay the night at my feet. Still honoring the cultural boundaries of the day, still a God-honoring moment. He doesn't say, why don't you come up here and snuggle up on my pillow with me? No, he says, just stay at my feet. Why does he say stay at my feet? Because he knows the safest place for Ruth is at his feet. It's the middle of the night. She's got no business wandering around Bethlehem in the middle of the night. Remember, Boaz has to tell his workers in the middle of the day, don't you dare harass Ruth. You take care of her. You treat her kindly and you treat her with respect. In that day and age, it's clear that wasn't the norm. So Boaz knows the safest place for Ruth is at his feet for the night. We said this a few weeks back. We're going to continue to say it. This world should be safer because you and I are in it. We should not be people who take, but we should be people who protect. Our neighbors should feel safer because we're there. Our schools should feel safer because we're there. Our workplaces should feel safer because we're there. The internet should feel safer because we're there. The safest place for the people around us to be should be by us. Why? Because we should be people of integrity. We choose it in the most vulnerable of situations, and that's exactly what Boaz does here. He knew the safest place was right at his feet. Not only does he provide physical protection for Ruth, he also provides protection for her dignity and for her reputation. He tells her, hey, nobody can know that a woman was at the threshing floor. That's how the rumor mill gets started. That's how gossip begins. So it says that she gets up before anybody can recognize who each other are. Why did Boaz do that? Because he wanted to preserve her reputation, preserve her dignity. He said, everyone in town knows that you are a virtuous woman. I don't want to skew that. I don't want others to think of you differently because you were at the threshing floor at night. So why don't you get up before anybody else knows that you were here, to preserve her dignity and to preserve her reputation. Why? Because Ruth was like the Proverbs 31 woman. Proverbs 31:10 talks about who can find a virtuous and capable woman? Question mark. They are like fine rubies. Hard to find. And Boaz did not in any way, shape, or form want Ruth's reputation to be soiled because of her midnight run to the threshing floor. So he provides protection for her dignity and reputation. He also provides a promise and provision. He provides a promise. He says, listen, Ruth, there's somebody closer in line. I got to talk to him first. If he wants to marry you, so be it. But if he doesn't, you can take this to the bank. I got you. I will marry you. I will take care of you. I will rescue you. I will provide for you. I will be your family redeemer. What is he doing in that moment that we can emulate? Caring for and protecting the most vulnerable around us, using our resources to help make this world a better place, not a worse place. It's better when we protect and we provide rather than take what we want. That's what Boaz is providing in this moment. Not only that, but he doesn't send her away empty-handed. He says, let me see that cloak of yours. And he gets 6 scoops of grain. I don't know how big the scoops are, snow shovel. I don't know, but it does say that he helped put it on her back. So it was a decent amount of food. He says, make sure you go back to your mother-in-law and don't go back empty-handed. Like he's a smart, he's playing his cards right there. You know what I mean? Like you want to get to her heart, get to the mother-in-law's heart as well. But not only that, in that act of giving her grain, he provides an opportunity. If anybody wonders, where have you been? What have you been up to? I was just getting some barley from my mother-in-law and I. You see, Boaz, he provides a promise and he provides provision for her. And in Boaz, we see integrity often looks like self-restraint, protection of the vulnerable. And in the weeks ahead, we're going to see follow through on your word. If we're going to be like Boaz in a world where everybody's doing whatever they see fit in their eyes, we have to be people of integrity that have follow through on our word. So when opportunity and vulnerability, when they cross paths, who are we going to act like? Are we going to act like Ruth? Are we going to act like Boaz? Or are we going to act like the world around us that does whatever they see fit in their own eyes? Integrity is the small, careful, honorable decisions that we make when nobody else is watching, when nobody else will be any wiser. Those are the decisions that we make. Let's be people who choose integrity in moments of vulnerability. I have 2 takeaways. I'm going to pray, and then we're going to be out of here. Takeaway number 1 is this. Decide who you want to be before opportunity and vulnerability overlap. These are pre-decisions. Decide who you don't wait for vulnerability and opportunity to overlap to decide what you're going to do in those moments. It's too late. If we're going to be people of integrity, these are pre-decisions. They're decisions we make before the decision. We decide who do we want to be as people. We make the decision, and then when opportunity and vulnerability come our way, we've already know the decision we're going to make in the moment. So who is it that you want to be? What kind of character do you want to have? Do you want to be a person of integrity? Do you want to act like Ruth? Do you want to act like Boaz? Or do we want to act like the culture? That's the decision that you don't have to wait on. It's one that you should start leaning into today and this week. Who do you want to be when nobody else is around? Make the decision and then let that decision determine your steps. Number 2, decide to use your power to protect and not take. Decide to use your power. Every one of us in this room, we have power in some form or fashion over somebody else. Maybe it's a younger sibling. Maybe it's a child that you have. Maybe it's somebody in your workplace and you're the superior, like whatever it looks like. Decide to use your power to protect and not take from them. Would you stand to your feet this morning as we close in prayer? Father, thank you so much for today. Thank you for the opportunity to open your word, to learn from it. My guess is, God, that there's something about today's message that's challenging for everybody in this room. And I pray that you would help us to process well the kind of people we want to be. Recognize that we're not alone in that endeavor, that you come alongside us to empower us to do it, but that we would live, God, as people of integrity. Lord, help us to use whatever power it is that we have. Let us use it to protect rather than take from the people around us. God, we love you. Grateful for your love for us. We pray these things in your precious name, Jesus. Amen. Thanks for coming today. Hope to see you back next week. Bring someone with you.